All right. Well, good day, Chairman, and to everyone that are listening. Welcome back, Grant. If you are
Thank you.
tuning in via our YouTube, you will see Grant is looking a little more spacious with his new background and everything, and his new shop. So, welcome back, Grant.
Good to be here, man.
Goodwood EQ,
Thank you.
or HQ.
Yeah, I've moved.
I
And
almost called it EQ.
I've realized I don't like moving. I don't know if anyone else is with me on this, but I'd like to avoid it next time if I can.
Oh no, I definitely end up, being the one that doesn't ask anyone to help move whenever I'm moving, pretty much anytime, and then I'm regretting it when I have 40 more trips to take on like the box truck or whatever. I know you didn't move a house, but hopefully you didn't move a house. Hopefully it was just a shop. But this week we're gonna dive into our Chairman of the Boards Facebook page. Actually, I came across it over the weekend.
Wait, hold on, Brian. There's a Facebook group that's all chairman of the boards.
There is.
Can you tell us about that?
There is, yeah. So we have a Facebook group called Chairman of the Boards where you can go on, and it doesn't have any weird questions yet. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but you can join. And there we have. I don't remember what we said. Let me see if I can look real quick. How many people we're up to? But it's a fun. We're up to 775 people, so you can come and join, and you can talk gear, post your photo of your rig that you've built, or maybe your first board. If you have a pedal question, we're going to do our best whenever any of us are able to chime in, as well as people in the Facebook group will also kind of chime in, which is really cool. So go to Facebook and search Chairman of the Boards. You'll see our little logo. Just come join and come hang out with us. So, and this is where you can also post a topic if you're interested in it too. So we're actually going to be doing that today, which is super cool, from Michael Guerra. And he posted, he says, due to the hype of the latest JHS preamp, it would be super informative if you could address preamp pros and cons, best recommended preamps, signal chain order, or how to incorporate preamp pedals in relation to Midi. Or says, or even how you would incorporate preamp effects on hybrid boards as such. So, I think
also he mentioned something, Brian, that I think you would be really excited about, which is an Olive Garden breadstick theme pedal.
I did see that.
He threw that out there as a sort of a PS.
This is what Brian really wants to talk about.
I'm so hungry right now, so let's talk food.
But yeah, I think this is a great question, because preamp is one of those words that gets thrown around a lot without a lot of I don't know. People will use it for a lot of different end games and results, and it's not something that we can all pinpoint and necessarily agree on. Like, what do you use an overdrive for in a pedalboard system is different than asking what to use a preamp for. There's a lot more gray area here. So I like the fact that we're talking about this. I would say by no means would I be the one to clarify all of this, but I think it's something that we could get a lot of traction out of. And I would say for me, just to get it started, the biggest thing for a preamp that I would ask someone comes to me and says, I want to put a preamp on my board. I'm like, well, why? What are you trying to achieve with it? And because you could put a preamp at the front of your chain and you could use it to tone shape a guitar. You could put a preamp after your overdrives to act more like the preamp of an actual amplifier. Or you could use an actual amplifier's preamp and you could do some tone shaping there. And even the term preamp, I mean, some people would use a semi-clean overdrive and call it a preamp the way they're using it. And other people would say, that's not a preamp at all. It doesn't have the right characteristics to it. And so there's just a lot here to unpack. And so I would start by asking why. What are you trying to achieve if you want to put a preamp on your board? And I think that will guide the conversation from there.
Yeah. And Mason, what are your first initial thoughts on this preamp question?
Well, I think his first sentence talks about the JHS preamp, and I think that they're talking about the Tascam preamp, or the Tascam pedal that is basically whatever preamp that Mk.Gee and I think the other person that doesn't get mentioned so much that was part of this whole Mk.Gee thing is this other guy named Dijon.
Mustard.
I was going to say he's known for other inventions as well. Some great mustard.
Yeah. Yes, and they use this Tascam as sort of the last stage before it goes DI to the board, and I think that this is probably closer to what I would consider to be a preamp than what a lot of the industry is calling a preamp. For some reason, we sort of like some brands sort of took the name preamp and started overlaying it on other things that are really just, I guess you could say technically they are running before the amp, but they're not acting in the way that a preamp stage would work in the same way that it would in an amplifier, or its ability to be able to drive a power amp section in an amplifier effectively. And so it kind of got applied to anything that made distortion or gain. And so, I'm cautious to use that term unless the device can really do it. So I would think of like a real preamp pedal in my mind would be like what Kingsley makes, like the Page, or the Jester, or all these different devices that he makes that could be used as a bona fide amplifier preamp driving a power amp section, and you could use that through a speaker. A lot of these solid state pedals cannot do that. And so we are sort of, I don't know, stuck with people sort of being confused about that. Now, as far as what he's talking about, this is like a very specific sound. This is a solid state preamp. It's got an XLR out on it. And I think the intent is to just use it the way that Mk.Gee would use it, where he's got, he's got kind of a really weird order. I don't know if you guys have ever seen his board where he'll run a distortion pedal like after all of his like modulation and delay stuff. He'll run like a pretty heavy duty distortion afterwards. So it creates sort of this weird, like, and it's got a gate to it. So there's like this weird gating distortion that has all this processing effect coming before it.
Interesting.
And it's very unique, to him. But I think that most people probably trying to recreate that context, unless they're playing like what he plays, I think that they'll just think it sounds kind of awful. Like, because I think the preamp in isolation distorts in kind of a harsh way, but it's like part of the sound. And so it's kind of become, I don't know, iconic for modern generation guitar players. But sort of divorcing this particular device from that conversation, I guess you could say in this case it is being used as a preamp because it's the last thing in the in the gains or any of the pedal stations is going right to the front of house or to your DAW. But if you're talking about something like, I don't know, a Benson overdrive pedal, like that to me is an inappropriate naming. Like that doesn't have anything to do with the pedal. Pedal's great. I have nothing bad to say about it. But I think the naming of it is confusing because that's not really doing that thing. It's not driving a power amp. It's not intended to drive a power amp. And it's really just an overdrive pedal. And he's not the only guy that's doing it. Tons of people are doing it, and it's a great marketing strategy. I just don't think, I think that it may be a question I'd like to ask you guys. I'm curious about what you think about this. Where would you sort of draw the line of what you consider to be like a preamp that's actually acting in substitution of an amplifier versus a preamp that's really just a new name for an overdrive that sounds sexier? What's kind of like, what's sort of like the line that you draw, or like what are sort of like, how do you sort of categorize these as rig builders? Because I get a lot of people that ask this question, and I think that they're genuinely confused because they think that an overdrive that's called a preamp is something different than just an overdrive.
I think an easy determination, which is not going to be 100% accurate, but it leads you in the right direction, is if it's actually running plate voltage on a tube. And the reason I make that determination is, and this came up when we were talking to Now I'm
Dr. Kingsley.
Dr. Kingsley. When we were talking to him, he was saying there's a lot of companies that'll put a tube in it. They'll cut something out of the chassis of the enclosure so you can see the tube. And really, they're just lighting it up with a 9-volt LED. It's not in the signal path. And so if you have a preamp pedal that's running a tube, converting the power to a plate voltage that's actually making the tube affect your tone, then you're actually dealing with signal levels and output that could drive something like a power amp effectively. But then I think maybe, Mason, this is where we differ a little bit. I think that a lot of the context, and I've done a lot of tests with this as well, where you take something like an amp sim pedal, something we all know, a Strymon Iridium or a Walrus ACS1, and you disable the onboard, in air quotes, preamp on the amp sim pedal, the digital recreation of a preamp on the amp sim pedal. Then you can slot in just about anything you like. And I've done tests where I would do something like a proper Kingsley page, or I would also put in an RC booster. And I'm using the RC booster's treble and bass, gain and volume. And then I'm feeding that into an amp sims power section. And it creates some really cool sounds. And in that instance, it's not a pedal that you would drive an actual power amp with, but in the digital space, it is acting as a preamp with its tone stack and gain and level. But I still would not, if I was trying to be picky on terminology, I would say I'm using an overdrive pedal as a preamp into this amp sim. But it's not, that doesn't make that overdrive an actual preamp. You know what I mean? And that's where you can kind of get creative and you can mix and match and you can, kind of, what does it sound like to use a rat as a preamp feeding an amp sim? Now you can find out. Like you can just hook it up to an amp sim pedal and disable the amp sim's preamp. And so there's some cool things you can pull off. And in that instance, that rat would be behaving as a preamp, but that does not make it a preamp as a preamp pedal, just to make it even more confusing. But to illustrate the fact, like with this Tascam pedal, you can break the rules and you can make some terrible guitar sounds. And those guitar sounds can have a place in a context, and they can sound really cool in the context of other instruments and certain genres and all this. And I love that about where this conversation originally kind of has come from, is it's coming from people breaking the rules and making some weird, interesting guitar sounds and maybe using pedals and Tascam preamps in a way they shouldn't, but they're doing it anyways. And I personally love that. I think it's really cool.
Did you see that Benson actually made was making this pedal as well at the same time?
No way.
Yeah. So I saw, I think on Reddit or something like that somebody had screenshotted something, which is like, well, I guess this isn't, going to happen or something like that. And it had a picture of his like prototype that said something like, Tascam, whatever, I actually think he should release it.
I think so too.
Totally.
I think it's one of those things that like the JHS ecosystem is the JHS ecosystem, and Benson has carved out his own fans. Yeah. And at least in the photo, I couldn't see everything, obviously, because he's just kind of showing us thing. I don't know if it had an XLR out or whether it was using like TRS as a balanced out option on it so that you could kind of get, a similar signal that would be coming out of it.
But it's like JHS releasing the color box and then EHX doing the crayon. And that was all right around the same time as well.
Well, they were 100%. I think this was less like, we both had the same idea. I think it was like, we saw what you did and we're going to do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. There it is.
Okay. Oh, shoot. I would love it if they released that.
Yeah. Obviously we can't see everything, but I wonder if there was an XLR output on it. But I would say do it, man. He's got so he's got so many loyal fans. I feel like he'll sell these.
And if he already has the enclosure and graphics, he's a decent way through this prototype.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like anything, like companies come out with tube cameras. It's like just because one company came out with it doesn't mean another company can't, And
it's not like it's an original design. It's like they're making they're adapting something that has already been in existence. I think it's totally fair game.
Well, and like when JHS released, I'll show a photo of it. So like this is the JHS one, and then you can see with the XLR and the ground lift
I think
on the
they do
side.
such a good job though too of
Yeah.
like adapting like the graphics. Like the coolest thing about I think like the whole JHS and using the term ecosystem is they figured out like a really cool way to sort of graphically represent things without like spending a bunch of time on like the name. Like the logo is like the product or like
Yeah.
the thing. I still always thought they should release like a dumbbell pedal that was just like a dumbbell. Like it would just be like the easiest, like
Yeah.
like kind of like it's close enough to their style thing, and they just have like just like a
Dumbbell.
45-pound
That's amazing.
free weight dumbbell sitting there, and if they didn't do the not a dumbbell, that would be my pitch to them.
Hey,
Love it.
you never know. Well, I mean, for like preamps and stuff, what's crazy is like for the longest time, I had such a like I guess misconception of what a preamp was doing because seeing other people's boards, you're trying to figure out what they have, or you can ask them or whatever, or you see them at a gig and you're kind of just figuring, oh, maybe they do this. But like seeing a lot of people like, oh yeah, I have an RC booster. Like they would have like an RC booster at the front of their chain, and they're like, "This is my preamp pedal," or you'll see like a JHS Prism, a JHS Jackson Audio Prism. So like Benson, you'll see all these pedals that people are running at the front of their chain, and like, "Oh yeah, that's my preamp pedal." I'm like, "Well, that's not really a preamp, as is more like an EQ shaper." And I had one guy who's like, "No, it's a preamp pedal." I was like, "Well,
You're wrong, Brian.
I was like, okay. I was trying to be respectful. I'm not here to argue with anything. I was like, okay. I was like, maybe we're just thinking about it and how are you running it? Oh, well, depending on what guitar I'm using, I'm adjusting the knob to kind of shape the tone. I went, all right. So it's not a preamp pedal. It's a EQ shaper type of tone shaper pedal. And I do think, and I do agree, I think the preamp pedal term gets thrown around a lot because I've had people like, oh yeah, this is my preamp. I'm like, but you have a UA Ruby or a Dream. Like, are you turning that off? No, I'm running it into it. I'm like, okay, so you're running an overdrive into an amp and you're just giving it more gain. So I think there's definitely like pedal placement. Because I think a lot of people have the good intention. It was me too. I mean, I went to Guitar Center when I was 15 or 16, and I bought a compressor pedal because the guy told me I needed it. And it was like a T-Rex compressor or something really really basic. And I had no idea how to use it. But he was like, this is what you need. And I'm like, well, I have a delay. Might as well get something else that I need. I have a volume pedal, and like, yeah, you need a compressor, which I obviously didn't need a compressor for whatever reason. But I think it definitely comes down to like that same thing is knowing what the pedal is you're getting, like this, like a preamp pedal, knowing where to put it. So yeah, I think it's cool that he asked for pedal placement, like for this type of thing. Because Mason, you just mentioned you would be putting this after your overdrives before the amp, right? Right.
If you were going to use it in the way that Mk.Gee is using it, this would be this. I would imagine if you're doing it in that way, you're not even using the 1/4 inch out. You're using it XLR straight into
direct type sound, right?
Yeah, because that's what he's doing. Now, I'm sure that you could use it as sort of a distortion device and just go 1/4 inch out. I think I didn't watch it, but I saw that they, at the time that we're recording this, they released a video that was sort of like, best practices for how to run this thing. And so I'm sure that they probably cover the ways that you can use it. Just because it's such an esoteric piece, the whole concept that even thought to run through this channel strip in a Tascam and use that as the amplification for the guitar. It's like this sort of like super low tuned, almost baritone range Jaguar. It's just sort of like you're creating such a just unique signal path that most people would never even think to try. But it's cool. It's cool. And I think that like, this is the type of thing that JHS has the ability to do, and to showcase kind of these more unusual effects. Like, if I almost think it's better that Benson didn't come out with this first, because JHS has the infrastructure to tell sort of the story about what this thing is and sort of create people's or sort of ignite imagination around it, and then maybe introduce them to an artist they didn't know before, like Mk.Gee. And then, when somebody comes out with a follow-up product to that or a similar product to that, kind of the path is, the trail's already been blazed to a degree. I want to continue this conversation, but before we do, I wanted to talk about a few of the sponsors that make this podcast possible. And the first of which are our friends over at the Guitar Sanctuary. And I did happen to notice that these JHS Tascam channel strip pedals are available at the Guitar Sanctuary. So you definitely want to head over to guitarsanctuary.com. You can check out not only that pedal, but many of the other actual preamp pedals they have, and also pretend preamp pedals that are called that in name, but are really just great overdrive and distortion devices. And I'm not throwing shade on the companies. I'm throwing shade on the name. They definitely still make great pedals. Like Benson has some of the coolest, best organic sounding overdrives that are made, and boosters and all that stuff. I'm just teasing them about the fact that they use that name. I think even I had a pedal once that I called that, and it shouldn't have been called that. So I'm calling myself out on the preamp naming as well. I shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't either. Also, our friends at Neural DSP. They have released some great updates in recent days, but the one thing I really want to tell you about is Mantra, which is something that we're using on all of our microphones. And believe me when I say that as roomy as Grant sounds right now as a consequence of his new headquarters for Goodwood, it would sound a whole lot worse if we weren't using Mantra, which is the first vocal plugin that they have offered. And it has all sorts of cool things, from tone shaping to real-time de-essing, all sorts of things that are really, really great, whether you're a vocalist or whether you're doing a podcast. It is an amazing plugin that works wonders, and we've been using it in secret for several months, although publicly since it's been out. And the really cool thing about Neural DSP is that they are offering our listeners 30% off any one of their plugins 90 days or older. So currently Mantra's not available for that, but it will be shortly. Use the coupon code Chairmen, CHAIRMEN, for 30% off at checkout. That is 70% away from free.
Worth it.
Also, our friends at Bestronix, the ultimate place to get cables, plugs, whatever materials that you need for your pedalboard build. They have it. And they're offering our listeners 10% off their entire order using the coupon code DACHAIRS, DACHAIRS. Get 10% off your order. Tell them the Chairman sent you. Lastly, I need to tell you about a brand new sponsor, which has just come on board, and we are excited to have them. And it is our friends over at TrueFire. And I know that many of you guys have spent hours dialing in your tone, making sure that your pedalboard setup is just right. But here's the thing, your tone can only go as far as your playing takes you. And that is why and this is where TrueFire comes in. They have over 2 million guitarists that use and practice and level up with 85,000 videos, lessons, and tools like slow-mo, looping, sync tabs, and backing tracks. And the instructors are absolute powerhouses: Steve Vai, Eric Johnson, Guthrie Trapp, and a ton more. Robin Ford's one that I want to add in there for myself. And so no matter what genre that you gravitate toward, TrueFire has a structured lesson with Grammy-winning artists to help you actually improve at your own pace, anywhere, anytime. And with TrueFire's All Access, you get unlimited access to every single course in their library. And they're talking about thousands of lessons across every genre and skill level from the best guitar educators on the planet, available anytime right at your fingertips. Sometimes the best tone upgrade isn't another pedal. I don't know if I agree with that, but but we're in the pedal world. So grab your guitar, head over to truefire.com/chairman and start your free 14-day trial of the all access or full access version. You don't have any limitations. You can see everything. All the lessons are there. So again, head to truefire.com/chairman. I know they want us to read this. I'll probably improvise it next time just so I don't sound like such a buffoon. But actually, they do make really good stuff. Like my buddy Jeff McErlane has some great products there. Robin Ford, of course. The other cool thing that they didn't mention on this that they kind of wanted us to read is that you can get like backing tracks from like a lot of these guys. Like Larry Carlton gives you like the actual backing tracks to like a bunch of like his hit songs. And like you can take those and then like learn the solos, or you can just like use them to do your own thing. And same with Robin Ford. Like not only do they give you backing tracks to a lot of their songs, they actually like create really like badass backing tracks with like, you know, legit musicians, and then you can use those and kind of do your own thing.
Yeah.
So I really love it for that purpose too. So I use it myself all the time, and I just paid full price, but I always find that they have like a really cool ecosystem. I think that they're really cool. I love TrueFire. I've bought several of their products, and I'm so glad they're with us as a sponsor. So shout out to them again, truefire.com/chairman. If you're helping our sponsors, you're in turn helping us. So glad to have them on board. Let's get back to some preamps.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Mason, for those sponsors. And yeah, like you said, a lot of those sponsors. Mantra, one thing I want to mention is that they do have a free trial thing too. I'm not sure if you said that. So you can actually go do like a 14-day, 15-day free trial, which is great because I was like, oh, sweet. I downloaded it and I was messing with it. Like, oh, this is super cool. And I reached out to our rep about it, and it is fantastic. So yeah, that is great. But for preamps, yeah, I definitely think this part of the question he asked, which I'm curious to hear as his thoughts. He says how to incorporate preamp pedals in relation to MIDI.
MIDI, yeah.
So I guess it'd be if that preamp pedal has MIDI. Would that be it?
I wonder if he's thinking about like the Chase Bliss thing, like because most of them don't really have MIDI. I would say that are you know, purported preamps. I think the Chase Bliss one is like the one I can think of that does have that.
The Mark II, I think they call it, or whatever. Mark II preamp.
Yeah, I think that
because it has like fuzz and stuff in it. That's I think where it gets tedious.
Yeah, I think that that one becomes really hard. I don't know if you guys have had this issue in using it as a bona fide preamp, but let's just say you were inclined to do that. Yeah, the fuzz is compromised certainly at that point. Like, and I think that they even say like this should live, you know, with a higher impedance signal hitting it because of the nature of the sensitivities of high impedance fuzzes. And I think that it also, there's some sensitivity in the brothers because of the treble booster in that, and that has, you know, some overlap with the preamp, and that also was involving Benson. I think the big preamp, right? The automatone.
And
is it true they can't make that anymore because of the optocoupler thing? Was that the reason?
I think it's to do with EU stuff, regulations and all that.
Well, because everybody in the pedal world got some email, you know, I don't know, over a year ago from a lot of the European brands saying if you have any of these parts in your product, we can't sell it anymore because of environmental reasons. But I don't know that would prevent them from selling it here. I just wonder if maybe they felt like they had released enough of them, and I'm sure that pedal, just from the manufacturing standpoint, had to be an absolute bear. Like it had to be difficult to make, and troubleshoot, and QC, and it just looks like a headache. Although I have to say, you know, as hot as they were, and this is not anything against Chase Bliss or Benson, I don't really see them that much anymore. Like they were everywhere for like a concentrated period of time, and this is more of an indictment on the culture of the pedal buyer, and like people are just so enamored with like what's new, you know? 100%. And it's like it's even like the coolest pedals, you know, the hype thing is just like everybody gets hijacked by that, and then where do they go, you know, and then everybody just comes back to their RC booster, you know, or whatever it is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, funny enough, I've sold off a lot of pedals.
How many automatones have you had, Brian? Just be truthful.
I've actually never bought one, but I would say the same thing comes to like I have, I've had probably 15 Strymon timelines, but I probably have 30 Nova delays. It's like the same thing. Like I always go back to the tried and true stuff. I literally have I had someone trade in some pedals towards the build, and they were a bunch of like my favorite like old school pedals, and I was like, I might just keep these for myself. And one of them is a Nova delay, and it's the same type of thing. It's like no matter what that new hot topic pedal fad, whatever they're calling it nowadays, that pedal is that comes out, it's like the tried and true stuff sometimes is just like the RC booster, like you mentioned. I loved RC booster.
I wish I was more like you guys. I am such a gear hoarder. Like once I buy it, it's my goal to never sell it. Even if I never am going to touch it again, I just have this like vision in my head of my kids being 20. I'm like, all right, go to the gear closet and buy use this pedal from 30 years ago that is, still in mint condition. But right now it's an absolute nightmare because I just have all this gear here that I don't touch, and I need to be selling it because I have no use for it.
You just need to have a pedal wall. Just like get a Velcro wall and put them all up on a pedal.
Velcro wall, that's a good idea. Dual lock. Come on, Ryan.
Well, yeah, dual lock. Obviously,
well, you can put
animals.
And I'll say this about Velcro. I think if you were doing a Velcro wall, like you could put like dual lock on the physical pedal, right?
Yeah.
But the wall probably practically makes more sense to be Velcro, right? Because you have to cover like a lot of space.
You do.
I feel like it's actually a brilliant, like
it's a really good idea.
You just said something brilliant.
I think this is my background now for the wall behind me. Just cover it in Velcro, and yeah.
Follow me here, okay? Follow me, and this goes for everybody out there. Think about like if you just did like a wall just like behind me, right? I'm going to try to describe this visually for people that are listening. Like let's just say you covered a wall, right, with hook and loop, and you can buy that material in larger sheets, and then you could like frame it out, to make it look a little bit more like aesthetically nice. You could have like some nice wood framing, you could stain it or whatever sort of framing you wanted to do, right? And then you could put dual lock on the physical pedals because they'll stick to regular hook
and they will never come off if you do that. Dual lock and loop Velcro is the strongest connection you'll ever come across.
So, but you could arrange your pedals. It would look nice, right? As nice as it could look.
Is this the first piece of Chairmen merch? Framed loop Velcro that people can hang on their wall and
take it a step further.
Put a power supply in the frame. You can actually plug into it.
Do this. This is behind you. Just do a big plexiglass wall, and then put the pedals with that light behind it. Boom! I'm just telling you. I saw someone. It's when I went down my video. I went down my video phase. We're totally getting off topic here, but this is great. I went down my video product because I do product and social media management and stuff. And someone used like penny tile that you see on like backsplashes of a house or like in a kitchen, and they laid it out on plexiglass and they put a pedal on it, and then they used an RGB light underneath it, and the light just came through like the slits of the penny tile, and I was like, oh my gosh. So dude, I'm just telling you, do a
good idea.
A wall of tone behind you. When I have a shop, I'm gonna do something like that.
I'm going to talk to you after this, Brian. This is brilliant.
But anyway, back to preamps. No, yeah, I definitely think when they start incorporating like an automatone into the setup, the whole fuzz circuit kind of goes out the window. I mean, there's plenty of it, like the Strymon, what's it called? The Riverside, Sunset, like those pedals. They're overdrive pedals. They could be used as a preamp. But I think it just becomes one of those things, like especially if it's in a PBC 6X or something. I think you just start to get into option paralysis. Like you just need to pick where the heck you're going to use it and go with it, just regardless. I think that's like a huge part of it. So,
love it. Yeah, we've talked about this in the past. We've talked about MIDI controllable gain pedals. And how I like them on paper, but in reality, they're pretty tricky. And you realize once you've programmed your preset, there's so many variables that go into, let's say, playing at venue 1, and you've set all your overdrive presets via MIDI to a certain level. Then you go to venue 2, and maybe the mic placement's a bit different if you're using a real amp, or you need to adjust your gain for a different guitar, and you got to reprogram all this stuff. And you, at least for myself, and I've talked to other people about this as well with a very similar experience, you very quickly realize how quickly, or how often, sorry, you bend down while you're playing. It's like, I just need a little bit more gain on that one. And then you keep playing and it's set and it's good. But reprogramming all these little tweaks in the gain, the volume section of your pedal board, it can be tricky. And so that's where I think MIDI controllable overdrives, I would be sparse on the programming, and I would leave, at least the level knob untouched by MIDI programming, because I would just need to tweak it all the time.
Yeah. Well, I would say to wrap it up, to wrap up this topic, what would you guys categorize as 3 preamp style pedals? Like what do you like when you think preamp pedals? What are you picking?
I don't know if I'd even put one on my board from the definition that we have kind of been talking about today. Something that purposefully drives an amp. I love
not that that's the only thing it can do though. Like there's guys that put Kingsley pages on their board and they just want like a really beautiful kind of like 2D sort of, like light overdrive coloration to the board, and like that's totally fine.
And I would put like a Kingsley page on my board. Anything from Kingsley, honestly, it just sounds so good.
Yeah, they make great stuff.
It's so good. And so I would put something from Kingsley on there. But I would probably, if I'm thinking preamps, I'm thinking of like, what actual amps do I have access to? And can I use the preamp from that amplifier if I'm going to go for that type of sound? But putting it on my board, I would more quickly go towards what you said, Brian, about tone shapers. I would go quickly towards an RC booster. But that's not in our definition today, a preamp. So I probably just wouldn't be putting preamp style things on my board, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Mason?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. The Kingsley stuff, I think if I were going to do that, I would probably I would use that as sort of like if I was using it as a dedicated sort of amplifier, I could definitely see myself like using that, and then like some sort of digital power amp like cab amps or things like that. Michael Thompson, who's a fantastic guitarist and iconic session musician, he was using in the interview video we did with him a couple months ago, he was using all Kingsley for all the amplifier stuff. And then he was using this like it wasn't very popular. It kind of came and went. It was called the Ace. And I think it was like an analog cabinet emulator or something like that. And then that provided sort of the DI, like the DI out to the DAW. And so he was basically going into these Kingsley preamps after kind of all of his dry, sort of pedals. He would go into the Kingsley, and then he would go, and he had like a bunch of Kingsleys in true bypass loops. So he could like select, do I want a Dumble flavor? Do I want a Marshall flavor? Do I want a Fender flavor? And then it would go into all of his processing gear, and then it would go into the Ace, and then the Ace would go, into the DAW.
That must have sounded good.
And it sounded incredible. You would never have any idea that it wasn't an actual amplifier. Especially when you're just listening back through it, monitoring, but it was all analog, as far as the amplification stages, and it sounded beautiful. And so I would say that. And then I don't know if like the Friedman stuff or the Tone King stuff is considered technically a preamp. I guess it's technically a tube preamp with a digital power amp and cabinet.
You can definitely drive a power amp with it. You can use the Tone King and bypass the output section, go straight to a real amp.
And they sound fantastic. They sound fabulous. And those are real preamps. Those are real 12AX7 with real voltage on it. It's not just this ornamental tube. Those things are great, but I think as far as like pedals that are called preamps that are just overdrives, and I'm not categorizing the JHS one as that. I think that's a legitimate preamp. It's solid state. And you don't necessarily have to have tube for it to be a preamp. It could be solid state. It could be using FETs or whatever it is that you're sort of substituting. And that's fine. And you can get high voltage on that stuff as well, and make it operate, like a real amplifier. But I think that as far as like overdrive pedals that are called that, to me, that's just, it's really just a strategy to get more people in the door. And, we all do things like that. Again, I think I admitted that we had a product that I was sort of, I went along with the crowd, I got peer pressured into it and made a bad choice. And I apologize for that. And, but I think that I wouldn't do that. I think it's to me, it's sort of like a misuse of the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, would I use one on my board? No, I just use overdrives and I call them overdrives.
Yeah.
Call me a purist, but that's where I am. What about you, Grant? Take us home, Grant.
No, yeah, I think.
Sorry.
I'm glad you mentioned the Tone King and the Friedman, because I think those are two very impressive units right now, and you can use them in a whole bunch of interesting ways with real amps on the power section or not, straight to the house, and they do sound really good. Very impressed with them. I'm waiting. And I know I'm not the only one. I'm waiting for them to come out with other iterations from other amp models, because it's one of those things where you just buy the suite because they just sound so good.
Yeah.
Brian, I think he meant to throw to you, but I just
I'm sorry. Yes, no, I did. We just gave Grant a double
dosing here.
No, it's all good. No, yeah, no. I would say honestly, I don't even worry about a preamp pedal. See, for the longest time, I was calling my Shaper first spin pedal as a preamp pedal, which I had zero idea. But it's definitely one of those things that I think it sounds cool. I think people are like, oh yeah, it's my preamp pedal. Like, it's one of those things like that. Oh yeah, I'm running 5 cable method, and it's like, well, why? It's like having an answer to the why, like a reason. I don't have a reason to run a preamp pedal on my board. I'm running an Axe Effects, but then on this little board in front of me, I have a UA Ruby or a Strymon Iridium, but I don't need to put an extra pedal on that board that could take up space for something else to do that effect that literally the UA Ruby is doing right now. So I just don't think it's something that's really necessary. That's just my opinion. Every musician is different. If it caters to your needs and you like the sound, freaking go for it. It's one of those things, like it's your rig. Do what you want to with it, but for me, I just don't think it's something that's really necessary that I want to mess with it. Like, do I really want a dedicated spot for a pedal that's going to be doing exactly what the pedal in my sim is doing or whatever, if I like it? If I was running a configuration with, like you were saying, the 2 notes cab M, like something like that, that's a different situation, but I'm not doing something like that. So, or have I had people that do it? Anyone that I've seen do that, they have, like, I had this one guy, it was a while ago. He had the La Clean from 2 notes with a cab M, and he ran that, and then the two Tone X's came out the once, and he immediately took off the La Cleans. So that's all I would say that. But yeah, no, I think that's it. Thank you guys for joining us, for listening, for being here. Grant, thanks and welcome back. Until next time, we'll hop back in the Miata and head on off to Tone Town, all 3 of us, because we're all here. So see you guys.
Yeah.